First, I am the EMEJE host. As part of its mandate to ensuring adequate registration of businesses across the nation for proper data, monitoring and supervision, the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, has announced the postponement of deadline for financial technologies, FINTECH Operators, also known as P.O.S, from the initial deadline of 7th of July 2024 to the 5th of September 2024. The CAC made this known in a press statement issued to newsmen recently, acknowledging that the earlier deadline given to sole agents, super agents, and agents has been extended by a period of 60 days. 60 days from now. The Commission emphasized that any operator, any P.O.S. operator that fails to meet this extended date will be faced with some sanctions. In this edition of the CAC on Track program, we are having the horse's mouth. I say the horse's mouth. That is the Deputy Director of the Compliance Department of the CAC, Mr. Tolu Lokwe Adebayo. This is another interesting edition of the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC on Track program, aimed at informing and educating you on efforts of the Commission to achieving government's drive to Hello? Hello?
Oh, yeah. Is that fine? Yes. Is that fine? Is it okay? Thank you.
So glad to have you join us on this interesting edition of the Corporate Affairs Commission's program, the CAC on Track program. The Deputy Director, Compliance Department of the CAC, Mr. Tolulope Adeola Shoneke, is our guest, and he's here to take us through all the issues concerning the registration of fintechs, popularly known as the P.O.S. First and foremost, sir, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, in your press statement, you made reference to super agents, sole agents, and agents. Normal, all things being equal, we refer to agents as agents, but for those of you that are lawyers, what do you mean when you say these ones are super, these ones are sole, and these ones are agents?
Okay. The CAC did not create that classification.
Okay.
That classification for agent banking is as identified by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Right.
Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria regulates agent banking and agent banking relationship in Nigeria. And there were guidelines issued way back in February 2013. I mean, I was talking some 11 years back, to regulate agent banking and agent banking relationship in Nigeria.
Okay.
Now, the definition clause of those guidelines identified 3 levels of agent banking. You have the sole agent, you have the super agent, and you have the sub-agent.
Yeah.
Now, what is agent banking? Agent banking, generally, in simple terms, is provision of banking services, right, by a third party, somebody else, on behalf of the principal, the person originally licensed by the CBN, to provide money taking, deposit taking, financial services, mobile money operations. Right. So the idea is that you have the fintechs, but they also contract agents to help extend these services, their services, beyond their premises. And that's why you have all these agents located there, located far and wide, and they are far-flung. They can even, as far as going to the hinterlands to provide this service, for financial inclusion. Now, the super agent is the one that has the power to delegate to another one. So you find that a super agent can sub-delegate.
Okay.
The super agent is the one that gets principal. The principal is usually the fintech. Contracts to provide these services on its behalf. So the sub-agent will now say, the super agent will now say, okay, I see old responsibility. I'm still accountable under this contract, but I also need people below me to help me take it further.
Okay.
So he can, within the powers in the contract, he can sub-delegate. So those that now take from under the super agent are those we call sub-agents.
Okay.
Right? So you have the super agent, you have the fintech, the principal, you have the super agent, and then you have the sub-agents. Now there is the other one that is a sole agent. Right? The terms of his engagement does not permit him to delegate. He does it by himself.
Okay.
Right? So that's why you have the different classes. You have the super agent who is permitted to delegate, And whoever it delegates to is the person you know as the sub-agent. And then you have the sole agent who does it directly by himself. Right. So those are the classifications and those are the distinctions.
All right. Now tell us the brain behind or the reasons behind the registration of fintechs, popularly known as the P.O.S. Why do they need to register?
Okay. You recall that at almost every opportunity we've had on this program, we talk about why you need to register.
Yes.
And I always tell you that the first reason you will have is because the law says so.
It's mandatory.
If you are doing business, with just a few exceptions. Now, the exceptions will apply to companies and it will also apply to business names. Businesses carried out under those forms. Now, in the case of companies, right, the only instance of exception will be when you are a foreign company coming to Nigeria to do business. And the conditions for exceptions are stated there in section 7980 of the Act, right? These are usually either foreign-owned companies coming to Nigeria to execute some projects on behalf of their parents, you know, the countries, or international organizations, you know, with which Nigeria has maybe bilateral relationship, you know, or by reasons of some treaties that we have endorsed, you know, or some technical groups that are coming to Nigeria on the invitation of any level of government in Nigeria to execute certain projects. So for a company, you can only be exempted if you're a foreign company coming to do business in Nigeria. Otherwise, you must, to carry on the business as a company in Nigeria, you must take steps to register. You must be registered under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Now, when you want to do business as a businessman, Section 814 is clear about it. If you are not doing that business, in your surname, true surname, and maybe your first name, if you are doing business as Shonaike is my surname. I don't need to register. If I'm doing business as Shonaike Tolope, I don't need to register. And the reason is quite simple. There is an identity known, a personality known as Tolu Shonaike. I have my data, my information somewhere that can be accessed. So you can always trace me. I have a face. You know who is doing this business. I'm not faceless. But if I now say T Square Enterprises, you know, I want to trade under an alias, other than my name, there's no identity or personality known as T Square. There's no record of it anywhere. So we don't know who it is. The incidence of registration, what it does is to give you some form of identity that is traceable, a face to do business. Some of those faces in certain circumstances will be corporate faces, which means you are distinct from your promoters. But in the case of a business, you are not distinct, but your information is submitted to the government. So we know who is trading under the name and style T Square.
All right.
Right. So that is why you must register if you are not doing business in your natural name. If you are adding anything to it. Now, coming back to the P.O.S, right from inception, if you go through the guidelines issued by the CBN, you will understand that those persons were originally conceived for registration. Why do I say that? If you look at the guidelines, the definition section of those guidelines is clause. It defines whether you are a super agent, whether you are a sole agent, whether you are a sub-agent. It defines all three of you as entities. And when you use the expression entity, you are not talking about an individual. You are not talking about a natural person. You are talking, usually, you are talking about some arrangements, legal arrangements for business. It may be corporate, it may be non-corporate. But it must be a legal arrangement, which means from when it was conceived, the intention was that you must be registered. So to have even gone on to carry on business for this long without registration is an infraction of the law itself. 863 frowns at that. So the intention, the intendment from day one was that people carrying on businesses as agents to fintechs, whether at the super agency level, the sub-agency level, or the sole agency level, are required to register. So what the CAC is driving is actually compliance with the law, not just the Companies and Allied Matters Act, but even with the CBN Act and regulations made thereunder. Right. And that's why you find that the CBN is driving this, supporting it, and giving every support that is required, including writing to those fintechs and telling them that they should take steps to onboard all operators on their platform.
All right. So what can you say are the major requirements? We are going through all this again. This has become a recurrent decimal questions for the benefit of those that are joining us for the first time.
Yeah.
And eventually, if somebody is watching us or following us on the program and is interested to register his or her business name as far as it has to do with the POS, what are the requirements and the processes to follow?
Interestingly, for this POS project, and not just for that, for bulk registrations generally, the CAC being mindful also that there's not a deluge of applications and there are timelines to them, for these registrations, that the CRP, Corporate Registration Platform, which is the online end-to-end solution that the Corporate Affairs Commission has deployed for registration of businesses, may be stressed, burdened with the deluge of traffic that will come on. And that's why we've been witnessing some low optimization, not working so fast as it should. The system, the Corporate Affairs Commission, has gone on to create alternatives, for bulk registration. In fact, we have gone beyond alternatives. What we have done is to provide APIs to these fintechs, which gives them access direct to the registration platform. They can go on and onboard everybody who is on their platform without hitch. Yeah. Now, where you have challenges would be where, for instance, yes, POS people, I don't know, that information, now, the fintechs themselves are supposed to drive it with their operators and let them know, right? Where you have issues mostly will now be that some of these operators are not aware that this is on, so they still go to use the regular. They are still burdening and loading up the regular registration platform, and they have these experiences. But if you are onboarded through your fintech, they have application programming interface, API, that allows them to onboard them generally. And the cost is just 11,000. That's what it will cost you, just the same way it will cost you if you do it directly. I mean, because you are doing directly by yourself, you pay 10,000 for registration, you pay 500 naira for name availability, and then, of course, you pay bank charges.
All right. After our last discussion, a lot of people on our feedback, they kept sending questions, answers, demanding answers to a lot of issues that they have experienced, especially when it has to do with the network. Like we have for one of them, Adewumi Nigeria PLC, who is also operating as a POS operator around our office here, who came up to ask me that, peradventure you are operating a POS, maybe within a secluded area where it seems you don't have that traffic of customers, are you also expected to register with the CAC, or it is only peculiar to those that have a lot of traffic, busy areas that have businesses and transactions to make every day? Can you clarify?
Yeah, I will. I'm amused by the name of this Adewumi and all that. I want to assume that Adewumi PLC is just an alliance. Great, because I was wondering what would the PLC be doing as a POS operator. Okay, now for Adewumi's concerns, yes, don't forget again that at what time, once you do POS business, you must fall within one of these classifications
that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's either you are a super agent, a sole agent, or you are a sub agent. I believe that Adewumi is likely a sub agent. Right? It's likely, because if he's talking about I'm small, we're not doing no traffic and all that. Yeah, it's probably it's probably taken from somebody with the super agency arrangement. When I say, you know what, Adewumi, where you want to walk around Katampe, no problem, you take this and go and do, right? But for all of them, whatever level you fall into, whatever class you fall into, you are required, because you are an agent. Whether the class of agent is what is different, but you are an agent.
All right.
You may be a super agent, you may be a sole agent, you may be a sub agent.
An agent is an agent.
The definition for all of them, they are seen as entities.
Okay.
So you must register.
Okay. Before the 7th of July, you gave a deadline that all the POS operating in Nigeria must be registered. And now there's an extension. Can you tell us why the extension? What do we expect, and what should be the expectation of the POS and also CAC?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that given the influx of traffic Don't forget that when we said all P.O.S operators come and register, we did suspend registration for other normal businesses, companies, and all of that. So, and it's still the same platform. Yeah, we expressed that that slowness. So it was difficult.
Maybe there was a rush.
There was a rush. So it was difficult for everybody to meet that deadline. But what I can tell you is that significantly, right, the operators have registered. If you talk about numbers, a substantial number, it's a very significant number of them have registered. And then we just said, okay, you know what, let's see what happens by the end of that deadline. If there is a need to extend it, then we'll do that. And that was what happened, that on that day, the very timeline, that 7th of July, the Registrar General considered, agreed that, look, he looked at the situation on ground that we need to facilitate their onboarding. So what we have to do, given this situation, our experience, let's extend this by another 60 days. And that was why that notice came out on the 7th. And if you calculate 60 days from 7th, it terminates on the 5th of September. So it is again to allow, particularly those who are, like Adeomi has said, those who probably are far away from, or their internet access is not so optimized, right, or having difficulties. But what we also advise is that everyone who is an agent, go to your principal. Let him onboard you through his API. It's easier that way. We deliberately did that for them because we wanted to facilitate and ease their onboarding.
Okay, and looking at the whole of the benefits or what they stand to gain, like I always refer to Adeomi Limited or whatever she calls the business name. A lot of them have argued that the benefit is more on the CAC and the federal government than on the operators, especially when it has to do with the cost of registration. A lot of them are confused as to how much do I need to register with the CAC? What does it take? You will agree with me that we have a lot of illiterate people that are still using the P.O.S. and they may need to contact the services of the learned. But they are confused on how much do I need to pay? What is the official rate?
Okay. For business names, the official rate is 10,000 naira. That's the filing fee for the registration. But before you submit for registration, the law requires you to obtain approval for the use of the name you are proposing as for business. So now the cost of sending in your AV, we call it AV, that's availability, name availability check application is 500 naira. So if you add that to your 10,000, that's 10,500 naira, right? So officially, that is what comes to CAC, no more. Of course, you'll probably be faced with bank charges because you have to pay on the portal. Your payment has to be online, so you'll be faced with bank charges. That's fine. They are very negligible and minimal. As if you decide to procure the service of a professional, CAC does not regulate the fees for professionals. So some people may just charge you 10,000 naira. Some people may charge you 20,000. Some people may charge you 50,000 naira.
Some even 100.
So it's now a contract between you and them. And that is why we opened up access to registration by creating the public user account if you choose to do it by yourself. But don't forget that I said earlier that we've even gone a step further in the case of these arrangements around P.O.S registration by giving the principals, that's the fintechs themselves, the API to be able to onboard their operators. So what I will advise,
in simple terms,
let them go to the bank they are representing. If it's Money Point, go to Money Point. If it's OP, go to OP. And let them know that you want to register. They will take it from there.
Oh, is it as simple as that?
That's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that's the reason for giving out the API in the first place. And they can then provide all those support services that we are talking about, to them. I understand the sometimes incapacity, the limitations about it's not everybody that is tech savvy, that knows how to use technology for registration and all that. But if you onboard through your principal, right, they will provide that support service.
Okay.
And in cases where you even have challenges, you can go to any of our offices that is closest to you in the state. They are also instructed and directed to help.
All right, the emphasis is going to be on those at the grassroots. What happens to them? Do you still have those principles at the grassroots to help these people register before the new extension of the deadline?
The deadline we're looking at now is September 5, right?
It seems far, but
Yes, September 5.
It's not so far.
And today is what? Today is what?
Today is 11th or 12th.
Ah, okay. And this is July. So
Okay.
you have about 20 days in this one. You have 31 days in August, which is now 51 days. And you have 5 days. So we're looking at about 56 days from now, right? What I would advise, the ones at the grassroots are very likely they'll be sub-agents, right? Now, those sub-agents got that status through a system, a process, right? So somehow the super agent was able to reach them, okay? And if they are sole agents, that means they have direct access to the principal they represent, the fintechs. So they can use the same channel, right, to connect the principal, to onboard them,
Okay.
right? I mean, if they collect money and pay money, there's somewhere they take it to.
Definitely.
So they can use that same process and let them know that we need to be registered, though. And we understand that you have API. If you have not gotten it, apply to the CAC and get it, which means you can help us on board. So by working with the fintechs themselves, right, what we have acknowledged is that we can also cascade this effort down to the last person on the platform of that fintech through the same mechanism the fintech used to engage them.
All right. And for those that are technology compliant and want to register by themselves, again, what are the steps to follow?
Okay. Now, if you want to register by yourself, not just for the P.O.S, I mean generally,
Business
names registered,
business name
by yourself, which is similar to the same steps for any kind of registration anyway. Now, if you want to register by yourself, know that you must be one of the partners or the promoters of that business. You cannot do it for any other person.
Okay.
It must be your own business. So I cannot say, my sister ILE is running a P.O.S, let me register it for her. Because once I create an account in my name, it creates a profile for me. And automatically, it takes all my details as one of the promoters. I can't remove it. Right? It is not an account, you call it a public user account. It's not an account like the accredited user account, which can be recycled. I'll explain.
Because
the accounts, these agents, these people you are talking about that procure registration for people as business, the accounts they operate with the CAC is what you call accredited user account. Meaning, we know that these are professionals. They will be procuring, they will be helping people to register their businesses. So that account, it can come from time to time to register for people. We don't have to force the people that own the account, who are the professionals, to be part of the business, no. But because of complaints that the cost of doing business in Nigeria is high, and then the confusion between how much goes to CAC and how much goes to the agents, the professionals. Like I said, we don't regulate that.
No, we don't regulate because it's their personal business.
Fine. So what the person outside knows is that I wanted to register my business name, my venture, my enterprise, and I paid 40,000 naira. To that person, I paid 40,000 naira to government. You understand? To CAC. Not minding that what came to CAC was just 10,500 naira. So we said, you know what? We'll open up this space. And if you are able to do it by yourself, go and do it by yourself. And so we created what we call the public user account. So the public user account enables the owners of the business to register the business themselves. It's not an account that you can use to register for any other person.
The public user account?
Yes, you can't use it to register for any other person. So because we don't want people, some will call them touts, some will call them whatever. We don't want people to use that account when you are not a professional to be doing business.
But some are using the business centers across the country to register CAC business names for business.
When you say using the business center to register, I believe that because one, business centers are there to provide business services.
Yes.
You know, secretarial services and all of that.
Yeah.
Right. They also have access to the internet. If you don't have, you can go there, pay and access it. You can only access our services through the internet.
But are they accredited by the EC?
If I go to use a business center, it does not mean it's the business center owner that is doing it. I may just be using his facility to do it. Then some business center may be run by accredited agents.
Where you take your information to the business center and the person volunteer to help you do it.
Now that is also a risk, because if what that person is, that is also a risk. For that person to be able to access the CAC to do it for you, if they are doing the proper thing, he must use an account. If he's not creating an account for you, a profile for you, in your name, then very likely the account he's using is somebody else's account, so an accredited user account. So it's possible that an accredited user said, okay, you can use it, which should not be encouraged. It's also possible that they have just hacked into the accredited user's account.
That's why this enlightenment program.
Now, you have to be careful, right? The risk is actually both ways, both to the business center owner, if he's not using that account with the authorization of the accredited agent. It's also a risk to the person seeking registration, because they may also clone certificates for you, they may defraud you, they may take through the process you think they are registering, they are not registering anything for you, and they'll give you certificates. And the day you have to authenticate and they say, the bank says, oh, go and bring your papers from CAC, or you want to travel, the embassy says, we check through the portal, we didn't see, you come to CAC.
So how do I avoid all of this?
No, we are not saying don't use a business center. But let them know, right, that they should create an account for you in your name, not in their own name, if they are not accredited agents. And if they say they are accredited agents, tell them you want to see evidence of their accreditation.
That's the question I was coming to.
Yes, you can ask.
When I get to the business center and I want to get registered with the CAC, what should be the questions, my expectation of the business center? Like you said, I must ensure that they are accredited. I must find out from them.
Yes, you have the right to ask that. You can ask. If I want to contract with you, I want to do business with you, I have a right to ask anything I need to make me comfortable working with you.
Okay.
So if you put yourself out as an accredited agent, I want to know. Because they're not I'm sorry to say it in broken form, where they're not the wear identification tag. They're not the wear cloth with the right accredited agent. They're not the carry number for face. So I have to be sure that I'm dealing with the right person. I have a right to inquire into that.
Okay.
So if you tell me, let them know that you know that there are only 2 accounts that you can create on the CAC portal by which you can get registered. So you want to get registered. You are willing for them to create an account for you in your own profile, in your own name, right? But the only thing there is that you give them your email address, and they must be able to access, because everything will correspond after you create it will be through that email. Again, you can change your password immediately you're done, and then you can access from your own remote place. You don't have to come back to them. Of course, you pay them off. Or if they say, okay, they want to use, don't worry, Oga, we have lawyers here, we have chartered accountants here, we have chartered secretaries who are licensed by CAC to do this registration for people. Then you want to see, okay, is that true? Can I see evidence? Who is the person? Okay, is the person not there? Which ID card? What is the identity? Yeah. What are the credentials? So if you are going to create that for me, I want to be sure, and I will sit with you when you are doing it. I want to be sure that you are logging into that person's account, and you are doing it. Right? Now, it is not for me to ask whether you have the authorization of that person to do it. Right? It's not for me. The fact that you can access it suggests something, that there's likely been a relationship between you and that person. It's either he has authorized you to do it or not. But at least be concerned that the registration you are getting is authentic. If tomorrow the owner of that account now says, but this person had no authorization to do it for me, that is between him and the person, not you. But if you do not inquire into the authenticity of that account, there's a problem tomorrow, and you get what you get.
All right. Time will not permit us to ask all of our questions, but as we round off now, what would be your advice to the P.O.S. operators and those that are interested? Do I call them potential businessmen in Nigeria, as it has to do with the registration of businessmen? In 1 minute. Yeah,
what I will say again, particularly for P.O.S. operators, is that they should try and onboard themselves using their principal, the Fintechs, right? And for generally people who want to do business, what I always say is it always pays to do business on the side of the law. The cost of non-compliance is huge.
The cost of non-compliance is huge, and it always pays to do business legally,
on the side of the law.
on the side of the law. And okay, we still have 1 minute at least. Okay, for those that are not complying with these rules and regulations, what are the sanctions?
Again, I'll refresh by saying that Section 863 forbids for you to do business in Nigeria without registration, except to fall within the express exemptions in the law.
Okay.
Now, if you go on to do that, there are sanctions. The sanctions may include criminal sanctions, right? For doing business unlawfully and illegally. Beyond the criminal sanctions, there are still monetary and pecuniary sanctions. For every day you do business, your money is piling. You do business without registration. You're only allowed to do business without registration as a business for 28 days.
All right.
After 28 days, you must register.
All right. To do business in Nigeria, you must register. Register your business to avoid the sanctions. Those are the words of Mr. Shonaike. Mr. Shonaike, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
And with those words of advice, we have come to the end of today's edition of your enlightenment program of the CAC. We have been speaking with the Deputy Director, Compliance Department of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Mr. Tolulope Adeola Shonaike. And to you out there, our esteemed audience, we want to thank you for joining us again on this edition of the program. Join us again next time for another interesting edition of the CAC on Track program. Have a good day.